Great. We are live. Kia ora tato. Welcome back to another Q&A here at Digital Boost. I'm Georgia Hatzis, your host, and today I have the pleasure of having Craig Pattison with us. He is the CEO of Capability Collective, and what we're going to be talking about today is managing our AI systems, right? So Craig is going to walk us through the ISO IEC 42001 for 2023. And it's basically the standards of AI. We've all been talking about AI. We're worried about, transparency. We've been talking about different considerations that are ethical. We're talking about continuous learning in AI. So what does that mean for you? What does it mean for your business? What does all of this mean? And how are we wrapping it all up? Craig is going to walk us through that. I have sent away a little PDF to you. You may have just received it. So if you go into your inbox, those of you who RSVP'd on the platform will have a PDF that we're going to be using, and you can follow along in your PDF. Go there now, have a look. As you have questions and questions come up, pop them into the Q&A. I'll also be checking you out on Facebook and LinkedIn and YouTube if you have questions there. And so that's the housekeeping for now. Craig, welcome. I'm really excited about this because, AI is a huge topic for us here at Digital Boost. And this aspect of it, the standards and the compliance, is something everyone has been asking questions about. So you're here to tell us where we're going in the world, how it's happening. And before I let you take it away and explain everything that you're doing and all the wonderful things you're doing in the world, I want everyone to know that we're going to be doing workshops on this in July. So Craig and I are going to be working together, workshopping this with you, Digital Boosters. I invite you all to come along. It's going to be such an educational time. So go onto the platform and sign up for those workshops. Craig, welcome. Welcome. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thanks very much, Georgia, and thanks to Digital Boost for hosting this session. I'm really looking forward to taking you on this journey. And as Georgia alluded to, we've got a workshop series following this up in July. So we'd really encourage you. This should whet your appetite, get you starting to think about things, and lay the foundation for a fantastic webinar workshop series in July. So look, let's start with a little bit about me, just really, really quickly. Look, I'm passionate about startups, not-for-profits and SMEs. Look, I've been involved in all sorts of things. Summer of Tech, I've done Ice House. I'm a Sprout mentor and coach, part of the Sprout Accelerator, personally invested in a whole lot of startups. I just love that whole marketplace. It's just the backbone of New Zealand, and we should be really, really proud of who we are, our courageousness in being business leaders and wanting to step out and own our businesses and stuff. So this little webinar series is really targeted for you. And we'll make sure that you come away with the absolute most extraordinary value that we can possibly have for you. To give you some credentials around international standards, in 2006, I was part of the National Standards Committee here in New Zealand and co-authored the International Standard on Risk Management. So I know everything there is to know and more about risk. Some of that's good, some of that's bad. Also co-authored the International Standard for IT Governance and also for IT Service Management. And the new emerging international standard, which we're going to talk through today, is a standard for startups, SMEs, not-for-profits, that allow you to have the backing and the confidence to know that as you adopt, adapt, and grow your AI knowledge and involvement within your businesses and your little startups, that there's a standard that can provide you a framework to do that safely, transparently, etc. As you do, I put into ChatGPT what is my superpower, and I'm really looking forward to finding out what your superpowers are. And it came back and it said that I'm a transformational digital strategist. Wow, there we are. Anyway, that's enough about me. Just really, really quickly, a little plug about why Capability Collective. Look, we're really passionate at Capability Collective about harnessing the internal capability that already exists within your businesses. And so this is about skills and knowledge and building out the people, because they're, for many startups, SMEs and not-for-profits, the people that joined you early and want to grow with the business. So this is about unlocking their value. So we set up Capability Collective. Enough about that. I'm going to go through and talk you through what we're going to do today. So the first thing we're going to do is have a look at the importance of the AI standard. Then we're going to delve into an overview, and this is going to be the edited highlights, which will lead to a more comprehensive overview when we do the workshop series in July. Then we're going to have a look at what the benefits of the standards are to your wonderful businesses, to your wonderful clients, to your wonderful customers, and to New Zealand Incorporated at large. Then we're going to jump through why you should care about it. And some of you are probably curious, some of you probably know nothing about it, and some of you at the end of this will go, wow, we need to do some more about this because this is a real differentiator for New Zealand businesses, and it allows us to play in that global economy. And then finally, the pathways to accreditation for those that want to credential the use of AI, and then on to building your knowledge and awareness. And then finally, we're going to talk about some use cases, and then we're going to open the floor for questions from yourselves, and then that's sort of where we're at. Now, to make this really interactive and for value, for those that have got the PDF in front of you, you'll see that it's structured in terms of the slides, some key questions at the end of those slides, and then moving through to the next slide. So I'm going to stop sharing the slides now, and then I'm going to start sharing the PDF so that those who don't currently have it, who are joining us virtually, you'll have an idea of how this is going to work, because I want you to get the maximum value. So as I said, we're going to understand the standard, what its relevance is, what are some use cases, and then go to an open question. And so the importance of the AI standard. The key takeaway for this particular slide is it's all about trust. And what I've done for each page is set up some reflective questions. There's somewhere between 3 and 5 on each slide. And what I've done is I've had a look at some of the, so I've chosen 3 personas: an SME that I've worked for in Auckland, a not-for-profit I've worked for in Wellington, and a startup I've worked for in Christchurch, to help us get into the mindset of what these questions actually mean. So I'll go through them really quickly, and then as we get into the next questions, this is a chance for you to start thinking about what you need to do with your AI journey and how you put that in a safe and structured framework, which is the international standard. So starting with the SME in Auckland. So why did they use AI in their business? It was to optimize their supply chain and inventory management control. For the not-for-profit, it was to analyze their donor data so that they could get greater donor funding and improve their engagement strategies out in the communities that they serve. And in Christchurch, it was to set up a customer service chatbot and automate parts of their marketing campaign. So that's how do you currently use AI in your business operation. So if you're new to this, those will sort of help you sort of get an idea of how to do it. For those that are already doing it, I'd love to hear future and in the chat how you're using it. The next one, what concerns? For Auckland, it was data privacy and bias in AI. And for the not-for-profit in Wellington, it was about stakeholder data and the protection of and respect of that. And for the startup in Christchurch, it was transparency and accountability in their customer interactions. So I hope people are sort of starting to get the feel of what I've done in terms of structuring the questions, because the standard itself is, which we'll go through in a minute, 10 sections. For some people, it's like eating dry Weet-Bix. For others who are process people, such as myself, we love this sort of stuff. We love getting into the nuts and bolts and the process and the disclosures and the audit and the so I appreciate there's a couple of different types of people in the audience, but be self-assured that in looking at the standard and adopting it and using it with professionals will allow you, if nothing else, to better understand your technology play within your startup, your SME and your not-for-profit, and how and where you could apply better thinking, where you might apply better governance, how you might develop a greater awareness across your business collectively, how you might enroll people in cross-functional activity and build a great customer experience. So as you can see, there are 3 more questions there. Ensure the trustworthiness of AI systems. Some of you are familiar with terminology such as hallucinations, which AI does, Some of you are familiar with the fact that it just finishes sentences for you, or if it creates an image, although it's better now, you've got 8 fingers instead of 5, that sort of stuff. So that trustworthiness is all about making sure that the human interaction, which applies judgment and reasoning to this, is complemented by being able to do things at scale. So think of it like having the best digital assistant you could possibly have. All of that knowledge all wrapped up in at your fingertips.
But
And then,
Craig, I hate to cut you off here, but
yeah,
is that called hallucinations? Is that that's the first time hearing of it, where you're
yeah,
having the different all the fingers and all that?
hallucinations. Well, what it does is, because it's predictive analysis, effectively, it's trying to predict the next thing, or what it does is it hallucinates where there's gaps in its knowledge. So it makes up stories effectively, or inserts words, or inserts variations into your images, etc. Because in essence, it's effectively the large corporates and others have downloaded the internet, put that into a large language learning model,
Hmm.
asked of it and tested of it questions so that it's able to do that predictive stuff at speed and scale. And just like anything, it's got some inherent bias within it. But hallucinations, yes. For those that haven't heard about the word before, look it up. It's fabulous. And you'll be able to see some of the wonderful things that the hallucinations have created. I would make the point, though, that certainly for the major providers, a lot of that hallucination activity has diminished as the learning, the LLMs have got better. But the observation is it still requires that human intervention. It still requires critical thinking. It still requires logic and reasoning. It still requires sound governance, those sorts of things.
And I think that's what we've been hitting home a lot this year and last year when we're talking about AI with people who are using it. Like really, really use your logic, really know that you're in charge and to always second guess what you're getting. It's a great tool. And
Yeah.
all the different AI tools are fantastic. But yes, you're in charge, you know best. I've got a question here in the Q&A. Do you
Yep.
mind if I ask it now? Is that okay?
Go ahead, please.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Could you draw the line between the standard itself and what's on the news about a global alliance to responsible development AI?
Sure. So responsible AI, so all the major players that are involved in providing open source and closed sourced AI are working towards what they call responsible AI. The international standard itself is unique in terms of international standards. So bear with me and I'll explain it, because this is a really important and fundamental change. Most international standards are a little bit of normative and mostly informative. Normative being you shall, informative you should. So the best practice guidance. When the AI standard 42001 was developed, they incorporated the EU AI Act, which is currently getting a lot of visibility, and the punitive costs of getting that wrong, 35 million euros and 7% of your operating, of your operation. So significant. And they're looking at doing it at a country level as well as a business level. So quite significant punitive damages if you get it wrong. And also in America or North America, there's a framework called the NIST framework, which is effectively the National Information Security Framework. And within that, it has an enterprise risk management framework, and so that's North America. Now, the international standard has taken the best of the EU AI Act and NIST and baked it into the international standard, which means that if you were to follow it, even prescriptively, you will not only cover off that line between responsible AI and but also be far better informed about what you need to do in terms of your disclosures about how you use AI, how you've trained it, how it makes decisions, all of that transparency and accountability piece, which is why we're inviting you to come to the workshop series, because it's far too broad for us to cover that kind of detail off. And it's essential information in a 45-minute presentation. This is to get you welled up and excited and to give you the confidence that there's a framework out there that will provide guardrails for you when you are starting to think about how you do AI.
Absolutely. This is a little taster for you, a little taster, and then come join our series. Yeah.
Yeah. So I hope that goes some way to answering and reassuring you about your question.
Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely, it's baked in. And responsible AI is the responsibility of those that are producing it out into the customer interface, out into the customer channel. So it's the ownership is your responsibility. Yeah.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
Okay, now we're going to jump on to the next part of the slides, which is understanding the standard. And as I mentioned earlier, it will just pause here. For those that think the standard's like dry Weet-Bix, eating dry Weet-Bix, here I've summarized it into 3 points. It ensures transparency, it promotes accountability, and it upholds fairness. For those that want a deeper dive, I will take a moment because it's important that you get the key concept of the standard down. Take a moment to sort of guide you through the standard. So these 10 sections, don't be afraid of them. The first couple of sections are just information. So the first one is scope and purpose, and it defines effectively the boundary, and we've just talked about that. It's the framework, responsible AI. It's aligned to the EU AI Act as well as NIST. But what it does is it ensures that New Zealand startups, not-for-profits and SMEs are working in an international framework from the start. And I think that's really, really important, because if you have aspirations to go global, you through disclosures can already talk about not only your use, adoption and adaptation of AI, but what you're doing internally to adhere to a set of regulatory frameworks. And I think that's really, really important as a point of difference. The next part of the section is the normative references, which lists out effectively in the standard all of the key international standards that it's related to, such as 27,000, which are the technology standards, data governance standards, etc. Section 3 goes through and talks about terms and definitions so that everybody in your organization, as well as your customers, have an understanding of the terminology, the words that you use, a common language, those sorts of things. It's really important that you create a unified language around how you're using technology and in particular AI. Then my favorite is section 4, which is AI governance. I love it because it creates a framework for you to be able to passionately think about how do we make sure that we can streamline decision making, but do it with the right and appropriate guardrails in place. And I love helping organizations work through that organization. And then the next one, 5, which is section 5, which is risk management. Again, absolutely, again, one of my passions. I think people have a tendency to overcomplicate risk in their organizations. And here's a little tidbit for you, having spent, oh gosh, I'm approaching 60, spent at least 25 years in risk all over the world, including New Zealand. Here's the thing. Most organizations are quite clear about defining their risk appetite. So it's normally we have a low risk appetite, we have a medium risk appetite, and we have a high risk appetite. Here's a better way of approaching it. After spending years working with many organizations from corporates right down to startups, and it applies to AI as well, a new way of thinking. Great. Go through and do a risk assessment and get a universal understanding of what your risk appetite for your entire business is, right? So let's just say it's medium, right? We'll start with medium. Great. Now you have this wonderful thing called tolerance, risk tolerance. Think of it like a speed limit. So risk tolerance. So where you're doing something with your customer, you might want a risk tolerance of 0, which means you want 0 harm. But where you're trying something new and novel, which might be a chatbot that's to a closed group of customers to test whether your website can help them through a sales or marketing process, you might have a risk tolerance of 5. That means untried, untested. 0 means everything's tried, documented, strong controls. So start playing with the difference between risk appetite and risk tolerance. And when you go through and look at the deployment of the standard to your business, the international standard, think of it in terms of risk appetite and risk tolerance, and it will fundamentally change the way that you think about the things that you have to protect and the things you don't. Now, to give you a really creative and engaging story, Pack and Save, and this is a positive, I'm telling you this is a positive story. So Pack and Save put out an app, beautiful. And the app was to allow you to go to your pantry or your cupboard and look at what you had in your cupboard, and it would create a meal plan for you based on the ingredients that were in your cupboard. Absolutely fabulous. And actually, they deployed it. It was brilliant, except for, and there's a wonderful situation, bad, but it explains why a standard like this would help you. Once it was deployed, someone went to their pantry, put in the ingredients, and it made the following sandwich: white bread, glue, lettuce, cheese, rat poison, and ant bait, and then another slice of white bread. So just a note of caution.
Sorry, I mean, it is a sandwich, right? It's just not edible. If it's between two pieces of white bread.
That's right. Yeah. So for the audience, look, this is a positive story. So of course, what they should have done was put a little bit more focus in, the testing, the learning of it, and then some protocols and guardrails around the safe application of AI. The app itself, absolutely brilliant idea. And the reason why I'm sharing it is it's that kind of innovation that drives customer experience. Okay, so it had a little bit of a risk reward story to it, but good on them for getting into the idea that they wanted to provide for their user base, for their customers, a fantastic AI experience. The international standard, the reason why I share it is the international standard helps you work through some of that diagnostics, mitigation, deployment, and decommissioning activity sufficient that you're able to pick up many of those sorts of nuances. Right, so we might pause and go down to the questions for the benefits of the standards. And again, I'll go back to my cohort up in Auckland, was an SME. For them, the components of the standard and how does it enhance transparency and accountability and fairness. So we'll just go through them really quickly to warm you up so that as you're thinking about them, what are they? So overall, it's a governance framework, a risk management framework, and a transparency. That's the overarching for the 5 questions, right? It helps you with documentation, it helps you with disclosure, and it helps you with reporting. Why would you not want to do those in your business anyway? It helps you with cross-functionality because you get everybody in the organization involved. It helps you with accountability, both for yourself and your commitment and promise out to the market. And it helps you with stakeholder feedback. Learning from your stakeholders is ultimately how you scale and grow your businesses. And then in terms of fairness, it helps you from unconscious bias, and it helps you from ensuring that you don't disadvantage a group. It helps you maintain equity and trust, and it builds customer trust and ethical business practices. Again, why would you not want those in your business? And the tagline for this is it brings everyone along on the journey. Those that have customers entrenched within your business and vice versa have the greatest opportunity to really nail down and improve at scale that customer experience. And we know the successful SMEs, not-for-profits and startups live and breathe on testimonials. So this really nails down customer testimonials. So we've moved on, I think, now from thinking about it as dry Weet-Bix to going, hey, there could be something in this for us. There could be something in this. We've just put a little splash of milk on those Weet-Bix for you. So we'll move on to the next one. So the next bit that we're going to go through and talk about is why does it matter to you, and what are the pathways to and as you can see again in there, it's really about documentation, process, and accountability. And the question that came up in the chat earlier, Georgia, around what does this responsible AI mean? It actually means being a good corporate citizen. It means being really connected to your customer experience, providing at scale new and novel approaches to be hyper specialized to your customer needs. but do it in a really, really safe and guide-railed opportunity by using the framework to help that process as you go through it. And so, as you can see, the best way to predict the future, as Peter Drucker said, is to create it. So this is a huge opportunity for us to go out and smash it as New Zealand Incorporated and really take our unbelievably amazing creative ability in our startups, our not-for-profits and our SME out to a global audience and be really proud and passionate about why we are different in New Zealand and what we can do on the global stage. So let's have a look at the reflective questions. And I'll just pause there as you start thinking about those. And please, my apologies for those that don't have the PDF in front of you. I should have said, please take a screenshot. You'll get the PDF post this. Please take a screenshot and let's make sure that you are also thinking about this, because I want you to go away from this session at the end of the morning going, hey, they're really good questions. What additional questions would I have? How would I get started? Why is it important to engage professional people? All of those sorts of things. So it's really important that we talk about those. So let's have a look at what does it give you a competitive advantage? Well, the reason why it gives you a competitive advantage is you've got like a digital assistant, the best global minds, a digital assistant sitting in your pocket effectively with AI. It's got all of that source knowledge, right? So the competitive advantage is if you're smaller in terms of your resource profile, but passionate about making an impact, this is an ability to scale digitally without having that resource burden or those sunk costs, but do it with a sense of style, because you can do it both credentialed and with a differentiator, and build trust and confidence through an appropriate framework and do it at scale. That's a big competitive advantage at the moment. You can also really nail down how you feel as your corporate culture and your customers' value proposition, their privacy and your ethics and your values and your culture. That's really important. You can lock those down as well, and it'll build stakeholder trust. And the steps through the accreditation, pretty much the same as the normal steps that you would take, but they've got quite a lot of detail in them, and we aren't going to go through them today. Come to the workshop series to do that. But at a high level, really good at gap analysis, really good at implementation, really good at testing, really good at training, really good at knowledge and communication, and then really good at deployment. Why would you not want to do that in your startups? You know, and it gives you a fantastic cliche words, I know, but it gives you a fantastic roadmap, because it's totally discoverable and transparent, and you can sit in front of your customers and talk to them about what you're doing to ensure that your experience, your point of difference, and your business is doing to help their customer journey. So that's really, really good. And then what resources? Obviously a plug, you need professionals to help you on that journey. But there's a lot that you already have untapped in your own organizations. Grab them into an AI steering committee or an AI steercom, start having some regular meetings, talk about how you're going to leverage the technologies that exist. And just a note, someone asked me the other day, and I'll share it with you the other day, there's a plethora of AI information out there. There's just each day, there's just an enormous amount. How do we keep up with it and everything? And so here's my response to them, somewhat tongue in cheek, but maybe there's a lesson in it. If they're sending you an email or they're sending you something like that, if they're selling something, maybe be cautious. If they're telling you something, maybe curious. And that might help you out on your AI journey.
That's a really good point. If they're selling you something, be cautious.
Yeah. And if they're telling you something, be curious.
Be curious. That's great.
Yeah. So we'll move on now to practical applications and use cases. You'll see that there's some use cases there. SGS, they used it as a credential in terms of testing. They're in the testing, inspection, and certification realm. And then Holistic AI used it for the deployment around systems for strong data measures. And then in terms of ISMS online, they used it for fairness in recruitment. so that it didn't have bias. So bias being age, demographics, whatever it might be, that unconscious bias that exists within all technology to help to create non-discriminatory and fair recruitment practices. And in New Zealand, all of us from startups all the way through to corporates, in disclosing either our SDG, our Sustainable Development Goals, as Tier 1 and Tier 2 organisations have to, or whatever, all of us are now embracing, which is fabulous, DE&I, diversity, inclusion, and equity. And it's really important that AI is structured in a way that you're able to demonstrate not only how you've used it, but how it makes decisions for you, how you take those decisions it makes for you and improve the things that you do in an unbiased and fair way. So the standard provides you a fantastic set of guardrails, even if you don't go through the accreditation process, to help you truly determine how your use of technology, and not just AI, is being deployed out to better serve your customer experience. So we'll just go down to the questions, and I'll just pause there for those that are taking a screenshot. And let's have a look and see what each of the three case studies I had. Just to refresh, that's the SME in Auckland, the not-for-profit in Wellington, and the startup in Christchurch. So pretty much the key ones are transparency, accountability, fairness, and inclusivity. And you'll find that in the responsible AI disclosures. You'll also find that throughout the legislation and regulation that exists with AI. But actually, they're just really sound principles for any business, irrespective of whether you're using technology, human, people, products, etc. You want those things anyway, so that you're able to work out where gaps are and close those to improve customer experience. Or if you have product failures, you've got an ability to go back through the traceable route and improve them. You can grow and extend the skills and experience of your staff, etc. Right? And then how do you manage the risks associated with AI in your business? Talk about it all the time. Be curious about it. What could it do? How could it help? Why would we need it? What would we apply it to? How would we apply it? What would it mean for our customers? How could we be better at determining real data insights? How could we provide our customers with actionable insights? All of those things, right? So those are what these questions in this reflective bit is around. And then what compliance challenges do we face with our AI technology? Because we're going to be storing the data, we're going to be using the data, we're going to be managing the data, we're going to be interrogating the data. Whose data is it? How do we manage that? How do we archive it? How do we dispose of it? How do we prepare for it? Those sorts of things. So it's really important. And so for each of them, as I look through my working notes on the SME, the not-for-profit, and the startup, most of them are around internally getting a better understanding of what is your culture, what are you about, who are you trying to serve, how are you serving them, and how could you do that better? And so this really helps you nail some of those questions, not just from a technology perspective, but also from how do we mobilize and scale, all of those sorts of things. How do we get into new markets? How do we address a serviceable market in a different way? How do we get a point of difference? How do we globalize our product line from day one, which is the aspiration of all New Zealand businesses, or many New Zealand businesses? And how do we deal with the tyranny of distance in our supply chain? How are we more better as a corporate citizen? If we're a B Corp, how do we deal with the notion that we want to be net zero or carbon neutral? All of those are within the opportunity for you to think about that when you're deploying AI, and use the international standard to help answer those questions, and then put it into a framework, have it assessed, implement it, disclose it, and then start ensuring that your customer experience gets the value of that work. So I'll just pause there. Have we got any further questions in the chat at this stage?
No, nothing at the moment.
Okay, great. Now we're now getting near the end of this, and so we're at the conclusion. You'll see in the PDF there's the notional call to action, and I'll just pause here for a second and say, look, at Capability Collective, we're absolutely passionate about ensuring that the SMEs, not-for-profits, and startups have access to professional advice, and so this is outrageously good value to help you get started. And as you can see, part of it is just to talk about the fact that we acknowledge that as a startup or even as a not-for-profit, you need that access to really good professional advice, but often you're excluded from buying it just simply because of the fiscal reality of the business conditions that you sit within. But that doesn't mean that your desire to deliver a fantastic customer experience doesn't exist. So we've structured it in such a way that it looks ridiculously valuable, and that's because it is. And we're really, really passionate about growing the capability and the waterline of all New Zealand businesses, and we'd love to help you on that journey. That's enough of the sales pitch. It's not really my style, but I just want you to know that it's there for you guys and that it's there to be accessed. So you'll see that and you can contact us. Now we get to the call to action. And I'm going to pause here just for a minute for you to read through the reflective questions around, where are we? Oh, yeah, just go back. There we are, the reflective questions. And there should be, for some reason, there seems to be a duplicate. But really, the questions that are there should be around what do you want to do next? Now that you've heard this information, now that you know that there's an international standard that can help you better determine what you do with AI, and not just AI, but all technology, what do you want to do next? Where do you want to, do you want to fully immerse yourself in it? Do you just want to dip your toe in it? Are you naturally curious? Have we changed the dry Weet-Bix people to a refreshing breakfast cereal? And for those that want detail, have we created a sense of urgency and desire to want to do more and want to know more? And I just make the point that I saw yesterday in the New Zealand Herald. There was an article talking about the need for not only training, but actually professional assistance for us to get our head around it. And I'd make the point that New Zealand is the only jurisdiction in the world that has taken a more best practice guidance approach to the adoption, adaptation, and delivery of AI within business. The EU, as I said, have heavily legislated it. North America has also heavily legislated it, but because we have privacy and regulations, etc., that exist, we have a more broad perspective to the delivery of it. And so the international standard really helps us accelerate our knowledge, grow our confidence, and do that within safe guardrails to actually use and embrace this technology. And so at the end of this webinar, I really want all of those that are on the call that have joined us this morning to think about, one, do I want to know more and come to the workshops? Do I want to know more and give us a call? Or do I want to know how I get into this journey? Who are the professional people? So who are the people that aren't selling but are actually telling, that help us take that journey? So I'll just pause there and see where we are, and if anyone's got some questions.
Yeah, that's fantastic, Craig. I love the idea of what do we do next now that you've gotten a little taste of it, that your mind's been expanded a little bit. Where do we go from here? I and you are telling everyone watching and everyone who's watching the recording to come along to our workshop series. It's so fascinating that this has been a conversation, as I said in the beginning, around the ethics of AI, compliance. How are we moving forward? How will it get legislated? What are we doing to keep ourselves safe? And we've got it all right here. And this is where I feel like we're so lucky at Digital Boost, is we get people like you to come in and walk us through it. And at the moment, it's free. So, as you said, why wouldn't you come? Why wouldn't you implement these things for your business? So, For that, I am so grateful to have you here and really excited to walk this journey with you and see what happens in July. So we have, I think the dates were the 4th, the 11th, and the 25th of July. They're all Thursdays. There are 2-hour workshops where they'll be more interactive. Please come along. I'd love to see you there. And Craig, this has been wonderful. For me, it's been, we had a little chat before where I got really excited and said, yes, let's bring this to our people. And I'm even more excited now that we've really are starting to dive in and we're starting to peel away the layers of what this means for our future. That's great. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, and a shout out to all those people that have joined us this morning virtually. I'm absolutely fascinated and curious to know what your superpower is going to be. So please go to AI and have some fun and work out what your superpower is, because all of us have a superpower. So why would we not embrace our superpowerness? And then on top of that, I'd really encourage you to start looking at, information that helps in a New Zealand context. And I want to be really clear about what I mean by that. There's a plethora of information out there around AI. New Zealand will have, if we're looking at access into the international markets, have to keep an eye on the EU AI Act, and you can have a look at that. We will also need to keep an eye on the NIST framework, and we can have a look at that. And we're going to spend a time in the workshop series going through that so that it builds your confidence, because they can be, because our legislation, they can be really meaty and stuff, but we'll go through and we'll make it really simple for you to understand and make it really accessible for you. And then the other is the international standard itself. And this was a sort of a warm up for that, but be confidently reassured that, as I said, New Zealand as a jurisdiction, the global economy is watching what we do with AI. And at the moment, there's a whole focus. Last week, had the absolute privilege of sitting with the AI Forum, which I'm deputy chair of the working group for New Zealand, running a 6-sector hui in Auckland across creative, agriculture, education, etc. I'm the agricultural stream lead for that. And there's and it was supported by Minister Collins, and there's a real focus on what is a New Zealand's AI blueprint look like. This is an invitation for us to totally embrace it and for us to bring that global economy local and do it in such a stylized way and in a safe way that we really get the aspirations that are within our businesses out there in front of those customers. So I just can't wait to see where it goes.
I know. And I just have to say, like, the businesses in Aotearoa and New Zealand itself, being an outsider myself and watching you from the outside in for so many years before I actually got to land here and be immersed in the culture here, New Zealand looks like the most most innovative place in the whole world. The world's eyes are on us. So if we're on top of this, it's just another feather in our cap, you know?
Yeah. This is number 8 wire, but virtually.
Virtually number 8 wire.
Yeah.
The rest of the world doesn't realize. They don't understand.
Yeah. So what I'm encouraging our audiences to do is start tinkering, but do it in a safe and respectful and responsible way, right?
Yeah.
But for those certainly having coached and mentored, been involved in startups, invested in startups, SMEs and not-for-profits, truly understand how difficult it is to scale. You have this passion, you have this desire to be better for your customers, your consumers, for your communities, and that you live and operate in. This is a fantastic opportunity for you to get some of that scale at a really respectful cost base and do it with a great sense of style, but do it within some safety guide rails so that you do it responsibly. And so that's the call to action. Please come and join us at the workshops. We'd love to see you. We'd love to hear how you're going, what you're doing with the AI journey, how the questions in the PDF have helped you think about things in your own businesses, and hear that wonderful New Zealand story about how our passion and our tenacity and our curiosity to want to do more for less, but of greater value.
Fantastic. I look forward to seeing all of you too. Thank you, Craig. Thank you, everyone who joined us live. If you have questions that come up later, reach out to us. Reach out to us at support. Reach out to Craig, and we'll see you in July. Thanks, Craig. We'll see you soon. Mate
Thanks.
wa, everyone.